Today, we've got some amazing guests from Approvalmax joining us on the show. Thanks for coming on, Danila and Amelie.
Hey guys, thanks for having us.
Hi.
So maybe we can start by you guys just introducing yourself. So what do
Sure.
you do?
So, hey everyone, my name is Danila Timerin, and I'm the head of the product at Approvalmax. And we also have Amelie.
Yep, I'm product manager at Approvalmax.
When I go to the websites, I see that Approvalmax is the number one tool to get your financial documents approved on time. So if you can tell me a little bit about what does that mean and how does everything work, that would be fantastic.
So basically, originally, when the founders of the Approvalmax they started working on this, they were trying to cover the need of approving their own documents because there was a standard of approvals, and I believe that for the majority of the organizations it is still the same. So you either have the paper version of the document which is signed, or you have these long email chains, email threads, which include the approval decision, which is written in words by all of the of the required approvers. And once they started working on this, they came up with a really simple idea that the approvals. So since your document it has all of the required parameters to define who should approve this document, it means that the user who is the requester, the person who submits the document, he should not go and manually assign all of the approvers who should take their decision, and they should not split them into specific groups and say different approval steps. It all can be done automatically, and that's how the original Approvalmax product was built. It was a standalone solution which allowed you to create any document and based on some of the parameters build the approval rules and add as much approval steps as required. But I'd say that the Approvalmax, as it works now, it was built on the user's feedback. So they came and said, "This is really nice, this is perfect, this is working. But can you grab the documents which we have in our accounting software sitting in the awaiting approval status, and then upon the final approval, just move it slightly to the right to the awaiting payment or approved status?" And that's how we've started working on the integrations. And this is, I'd say, the core solution right now. So we have 10K organizations who are using the Approvalmax with their accounting software. And currently we have an integration with Zira. So we have a product Approvalmax for Zira, Approvalmax for QuickBooks Online. And on the top of these products, we have this standalone workflow, which is the original concept, where you can go and maybe create the workflows for your, I'd say, basically HR needs or some specific expenses which are not directly tracked in your accounting software.
Thanks a lot for that introduction, Danila. And so one thing that's just probably useful for our listeners to gauge how you work is like, what if you can tell us the size of your team? So how big is your product team?
So our product development team is currently, I'd say, it's like from 20 to 30 guys in total, and we have the product team, which includes 4 product managers and myself sometimes. We have quality assurance team, which includes 5 engineers. We have one UX designer who is the head of the design, and he's resolving all the design related issues solely. We have 6 front-end developers and 6 back-end developers. And this is the current setup that we have, as well as it's all managed by myself and our development facilitator, who is the guy who is combining lots of roles. And in regards to the product development team, he is in charge of the technical processes. He's in charge of the Scrum processes, and in general, as it said in his title, he is facilitating the development processes.
Is he also a person that is developing internal tools for the team, or that's not exactly what he does?
Yeah, partially, he does work with this as well. So I'd say that he is. So one of the recent things that we've started using is a linear B. So this was kind of his project, and it's basically, as you guys might know, it's a tool to, I'd say that in general, do the health checks internally for the development team and just understand how the things are going. Do we have lots of old and abandoned branches, and how many branches each developer have? And it might help you to indicate if someone is going to burn out soon. So
so this is a tool that he developed.
No. That's
what is the name of the tool?
That we've Linear B.
Linear B.
Maybe you've heard of it.
Not really.
Actually, this is a very interesting topic for me. How do you prevent, how do you keep your developers happy and actually, how does this tool check that they're not burning out?
I'd say that this is a very technical issue for sure. I'd say that this is really complementary thing to the one-to-one sessions that we have with the developers, where we verbally kind of discuss the issues that bothers them. And basically, I'd say that there is nothing more efficient than just kind of one-to-one talk. And on other hand, we also kind of can consider the ability, the amount of the discussions that each particular developer has under his, PRs. So this is quite an indicative thing.
So this linear B application, it's integrated with your repositories and maybe with Slack, and it's kind of something that kind of gets information from lots of places and gives some sort of reports in the tool, right?
Yeah, that's correct. We integrated with GitHub and Jira.
Okay, and other than GitHub and Jira, so you are using Jira, and do you also use other stuff from Atlassian? How integrated are you within the Atlassian world in a way?
Well, we are also using Confluence from Atlassian. So we are using it quite closely with Jira as well. We are using it even with Slack integrations, for example. And we are using Jira integration with Bird Eats Bug as well, which is quite convenient. So all our tools are more or less integrated with each other, which allows quite smooth flow of information.
And I want to get into very kind of nitty gritty of how you use the tools here, but maybe Jacky, do you have any other questions more in terms of management? So you are very deep. Okay, you do have one. Go ahead.
Yeah, one thing that I was quite interesting from one PM to another is what kind of things might devs have issues with. I'm kind of singling out Daniel here because he's a lone developer in this conversation. But what kind of things do you find they're generally unhappy with or find challenging? And what's the actions you normally take to sort of streamline that process or make them happy? Because I guess the challenge I find is, you want to make them happy. Devs are really important to any software company. They're very hard
He's very
to find.
happy now. Daniel is very happy.
They're very special, and you let them know that they're special. But at the same time, you always need to balance the fact that there are specific things you need to build. with the product or specific business goals that need to be met, and perhaps the things that need to be done and the speed, the pace where we need to do things don't fit in with what the developer wants. So yeah, what's your tips on, or what's your techniques in trying to balance these things?
Things that we did experienced ourselves is that, as you mentioned, all the developers, they are differently paced, and they do have a bit different culture style and like code style, and it generally means that some of the guys, they're doing things quick, and they're doing small PRs, and it's really kind of, in terms of the management, it's really easy because it's like you see several lines approved, bam, everything goes smoothly. But for some, it's more common and more convenient to sit a bit longer, have a deep thought, and then just create a gigantic, feature branch. Which, I mean, it's totally valid as they build the value, and it's clear that their work is really heavily appreciated. And I mean, it's really okay because it's a different culture. But I'd say that we are still trying to kind of move everyone towards the idea that the smaller the amount of the changes you submit for approval, the faster you receive the approval. And I'd say that this is a common practice not only for the development, but also for our release management. But yeah, Amelie, what do you have in mind?
Yeah, we
Oh,
had that. Yeah, Jackie.
I just wanted to I just wanted to prod this a bit because that's really useful for myself actually. So when you do a feature, when you're building a feature, then do you purposely break it down into really small pieces that the developer would work on and try and push, create PRs for, get approval, even though those pieces would not result in the complete feature? So, or do you sort of like let them just build the entire feature so that it's complete and ready for release?
It
I'm just kind
depends
of wondering how
usually.
you
Yeah.
break it down into the super small pieces. Yeah.
Yeah, it depends on the features, but quite often we try to have like in Jira, if you take it, we have like Epic, and Epic is really like for some really big features. And then, for example, we had some feature like not so long ago, which was budget feature, and we had like an Epic which was for budget. Then we had different stories about different aspects of the feature, like for example, how we will implement it in request, how we will implement it in reports, and then from these stories we divide it into tasks, both for like backend developers and front-end developers, which are more like small bits about what we will add. Like, okay, we will need to add this part to the UI, and we need to add this part to the backend, and so on. And then the product manager checks like how it's implemented and that all the pieces fit together.
Yeah, this is something that we also notice a lot here is in terms of PR sizes and time for approval and long running branches. This is always an issue. I think that we are noticing more and more that it's really always worth to split and make it smaller. And even if it's in the end you're going to be part of a gigantic branch, at least this branch is subdivided and you're always like merging into this big branch, and then in the end you have one big feature that is composed of small parts. I think that this is something that makes a lot of sense, definitely. And I'll be curious also to understand how is your approval process like at Approvalmax? How do you approve PRs, for example? Is it something that you try to? Is it always one person assigned, or do you distribute that throughout the team, or how do you make sure that this goes fast enough and good quality goes through?
It depends actually between backend and frontend, because like for frontenders it's a bit like the PR are usually a bit easier than for backend. So usually our frontenders, all our frontend team is added as reviewer for the PR. Then it's like we need at least two approvals to proceed, and usually it's like our front-end developers still wait the approval of at least one of the senior front-end who dealt with the product since several years, or the approval of the front-end team lead. So once they have at least one of those plus at least one other approval, they are good to merge. But for backend, it really depends on the features, and it's because on backend, the guys try a bit more to assign the PR review to the ones who worked on this feature or who are senior enough, or it depends if it's like architectural change or just feature change. So it's as well at least two approvers for a PR to be merged, like to our dev branch. But usually we need at least like one senior approver, one senior developer to approve it. And for some architectural changes, we need at least like some of those too. So it depends.
I'd say that the core issue and why everything might be slowed is that when you're trying to implement a new service at the backend, we have the kind of an architectural committee who won't allow the developer to build a standalone service when this particular thing should be integrated into some of the existing domains and services. And that generally means that you have to be really fast with your changes being submitted, because on the one hand you should split everything into the small pieces for things to be fast. On the other hand, you should also focus on the existing ecosystem which you are trying to implement something to. And that generally brings us to another approach that we have, which is hiding everything under the beta flag. Yeah. So
Under feature flag, I mean.
Actually, not everything, but like a bunch of our big stuff.
The
yeah,
beta
we
flag,
hide it.
the kind of the catch-all for it might be buggy, but it's ready to use.
Not
Yeah.
exactly. Like we have
Oh,
a
beta flag.
which is more like for
Got it.
yeah, it's more like we hide it actually. So it's like all this feature is not visible for users. So when we develop it, because sometimes it's not like fully developed, and you have like part of it which will go to production, and you have some UI components, but the backend might be missing and so on. So it's hidden. So unless we enable this beta feature for the user organization, then it won't be visible, so it won't affect them.
Would you say this is like a necessary compromise because of this process you have of splitting things up into small pieces? And by the way, a question on that: when you said you split up things into smaller pieces, do you also have like different developers working on every single one of these small pieces, like, or is it actually
Usually,
like
no.
one
Like,
developer who's taking care of most of them, but they're just tackling it in smaller chunks?
yeah, usually it's more like this, yeah, because it's like one feature and the developer needs to be in the context of what's happening. So usually we will have like one backend developer and one front-end developer when the feature itself is being developed. When we need to fix it later on, it might be more flexible and so on. But when it's still at the stage of developing the whole thing, it's usually one front-end